in homeopathy, we don't use words like inflammation as much, but we can look at bryonia as kind of a homeopathic anti-inflammatory in this situation where it's going to calm that irritation, help reduce that swelling, and support the body's natural healing process.
Welcome to the Simple Hopeopathy Podcast. Your hosts are Sandra Nardoni, Nicole Pavlik, and Heather Strickland, 3 practical homeopaths whose mission is to educate, empower, and encourage you to confidently use the practical homeopathy approach to take back your health. Homeopathy is a system of natural medicine discovered in the 1700s by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann and is not supplements, botanicals, or herbalism. If you'd like to learn more, brew a cup of tea or coffee and keep listening. Hello, and welcome to the Simple Hopeopathy Podcast. My name is Sandra Nardoni, and I'm here with my friends Heather and Nicole, and we are collectively Simple Hopeopathy Wellness. And today we are talking about a topic that is deeply personal, but it's also super fun to make fun of because we all have boobs. And I mean, maybe we don't all have boobs, but a lot of people who listen to this podcast have boobs. And we're going to be talking today about how to keep those tatas happy and how to make sure that you are really doing what you need to do, not just from a general self-care perspective, but also from a homeopathic perspective, and what to do when things maybe go wrong with the girls, if you know what I mean. So today, I am going to first have to do my disclaimer, as per usual, that we are not doctors and nothing we say should be misconstrued to be medical advice. And if you have a medical problem, you should go see a physician and not us because we're not doctors. So there we go. That is my disclaimer. We are educators. But
we'd love to hang out with you.
Yeah, we would love to hang out with you. And actually, people ask us advice all the time about things, but we are not medical doctors. So we just want to make that clear.
Yes.
Anyway, so speaking of our tatas, or as I like to call mine, the sisters, there are a lot of things that can go wrong with them. And there are a lot of times when we don't necessarily want to put hardcore drugs into our body to help an infection or an abscess or something like that, but maybe you don't know what to do. And keeping our breasts healthy is, of course, very important. And I know that I'm teasing and I'm laughing about it, but I actually have a very personal story about this because I lost my mother-in-law at the age of 48. I was not 48. She was 48 when she passed away from breast cancer. And that was a huge loss in our family. I was very close to her. I grew up with my husband's family at church. So I had known her since I was 13 years old. And I was, she still had kids at home. She still had a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old at home. And so that was a very devastating loss for our family. And I wish I had known now or then what I know now about homeopathy, because she was very open to natural things. There's a lot of stuff that she introduced me to. I don't know if you guys have read, I'm sure you've read Sally Fallon's book, Nourishing Traditions. She's the one that introduced me to that book. And I don't know, she was full of life and joy, and it was a huge loss. So even though I joke about the sisters and all that kind of stuff, I do know that it can be a very serious topic, and that people worry about these things, and that we do need to be aware of what's going on with our bodies, especially when it comes to breast health. And so today's episode is all about looking at our breast health from a homeopathic perspective, so that when things do come up with things that might happen, like mastitis or an abscess or any one of the things that we're going to talk about today, we have a perspective that is homeopathic in nature, in addition to whatever else we need to do, because homeopathy doesn't have to just stand alone. It has no side effects. It doesn't interfere with anything. So if you're in a scary situation and you need, medical care for something having to do with your breasts, get the medical care that you need. But you can also supplement that and make it even work better by using homeopathy. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today is how to approach things homeopathically. In situations maybe where you don't have to go to the doctor or you don't want to go to the doctor. And then we're not going to give specifics necessarily, but just some general remedies that you should have around for your breast health in case something like that does arise if you're nursing a baby or whatever you might be doing. So anyway, with that, I feel like I kind of rambled in that beginning there a little bit.
That is totally all right. We love when you ramble.
Okay,
It's
well,
all good things. It's all good rambling.
okay, good ramblings. Nicole, I'm gonna pass it off to you because um, we are talking about breast health, and a lot of times when people think of that, they think of mammograms or lumps. And holy cow, there's a whole lot more going on than just those two things. And being a nurse, you have a unique perspective to be able to maybe talk a little bit more in depth about the kinds of things that can go on with breast health that we might want to pay attention to, and how to do self-care and all those sorts of things. So, Nicole, tell us more about that particular aspect of what we're talking about today.
Why, thank you, Sandra. I would love to do that.
I knew you
Um,
would.
So just to kind of reiterate what Sandra was saying, we are ending October, the month of October, when we are airing this episode, and October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we thought that, like Sandra said, that could be a really scary time in people's lives. I'm sure all of us know somebody or have been touched by a breast cancer story or a cancer story in general. And so that's a very difficult thing that people have to deal with. So we wanted to bring to you guys some health tips on how to keep the tatas healthy, like Sandra said. So, we wanted to talk to you about some of the ways that you could do that, not only homeopathically, but just even from a least invasive and more holistic minded perspective, right? So, Sandra mentioned, definitely, there could be mammograms involved and lumps involved. But before we even get to lumps, right, or any of those things, we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to avoid getting to that point. Right? And so some of the things that we could do naturally that are super easy to introduce into our life, to keep everything flowing smoothly are one, lymphatic flow and circulation is super important. So we all believe here that God made us perfectly and built us in with a natural detox system, and your lymphatic system is one of them. Your lymphatic system helps, get rid of all the toxins. It helps, it works alongside the circulatory system, and it's really important part of your immune system, right? So you want to make sure that your lymphatic system is flowing properly. And that is more difficult than the circulatory system because it doesn't have the heart to pump it. So some easy ways that you can implement and help the flow of your lymphatic system, just simply, getting exercise. Some people purchase like a small rebounder or like the mini trampolines. Oh gosh, girls, if I already start with not being able to talk today, um, a mini trampoline where you can bounce up and down on the trampoline and it'll have that flow going. There's also lymphatic drainage massage. Guys, if you have never had a lymphatic drainage massage, it is one of the most luxurious experiences I've ever experienced in my life. I am a very like sensitive, tender person, so I don't like those deep massages. I know a lot of people love them and they probably want to smack me right now for even saying that.
I love them.
I don't, but a lymphatic drainage massage is very gentle and they go over like every part, your lymphatic systems all throughout your body, and they go over every part, and it's very gentle, it's very calming, it's very soothing. So if you're like me and you don't really love, if you're, kind of freaked out by the massage name, don't fear getting one of those in your lifetime. They're really good. I suggest doing them regularly. And there's other ways you guys can look up, other ways, but those are just a few ways things that we want to talk about. Now, the next two things I'm going to talk about kind of go hand in hand. And one, it's your balance. You want to make sure that your hormones are balanced. And the other thing that I'm going to talk about is iodine. And the reason why I'm going to talk about them together is because having a good I keep almost saying imbalance, hormone balance, can help prevent, certain breast conditions like fibrocystic breasts and even some types of breast cancer by balancing out your hormones. But iodine actually plays a crucial role not only in your breast health and your hormone health, but also your thyroid health, right? So, iodine is extremely important in breast health, and it actually helps metabolize estrogen levels, and metabolizing those estrogen levels can help regulate your breast health. So, that's one thing to think about. Also, when we
Can I
talk,
interject a question?
yeah, absolutely.
Can you explain that a little bit better about metabolizing your estrogen? Like, I don't understand. Like, can you just explain that to me what that means?
I mean, it really just helps, make everything run smoothly, right? So again, like your estrogen, your testosterone, like all your sex hormones, all your adrenal hormones, all your thyroid hormones, they all need to be functioning within balance, right? Homeopaths love balance.
Mhm.
And sometimes certain things can throw them out of balance, right? And so when you have high amounts of estrogen, obviously it's not good and it's going to throw everything off. So iodine just basically helps balance out those estrogen levels to healthy levels. Does that make a
Okay.
little more sense?
Yeah. Can you use homeopathic iodine to do that, or have you done that yet? Or do you not?
So I have not. That is, what Joette Calabrese says is more of a is
It's
more
more
of
like
a
isotopy, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I really recommend people to look at foods first, right?
Okay.
Because iodine levels on a lab range, first of all, everyone's iodine deficient, right? The World Health Organization says it's a very large amount. I think it's like 60% of the population is deficient in iodine, right? And if the World Health Organization is saying it's that high, it's probably higher, right? Because who actually gets their iodine levels checked, right? How many of you
Right,
guys
right.
have had
Only
your eye?
freaks like us.
Right, right,
You
right.
can't even get a full thyroid panel, let alone iodine. So,
Right.
Exactly, exactly. And iodine is one of those lab values that's very wide in range, right? It's usually like 60 to 90. So or 60 to 100. So it's really hard to have adequate levels of iodine. There are studies that actually show that the higher you are, like if your iodine is in the 90s level, that it can actually reduce your risk of different types of cancers like breast cancer, prostate cancer. And again, that's all hormone related cancers, right? So, and speaking of thyroid earlier, we actually need iodine to produce thyroid hormone, which will help keep all of those other hormones in balance to prevent that. But going back to
With
the,
the, can I ask another? Sorry. I
yeah,
think
no, you're
I
good.
think I'm asking questions other people might ask too.
Yeah.
So if you are balanced in your thyroid,
Hmm.
then that will automatically that will be balancing out your iodine levels. Am I understanding that correctly?
It's it's reversed. So
Reversed.
you
Okay.
actually need iodine to produce your thyroid hormone levels,
But if
right?
you have an issue with your thyroid and you're approaching it homeopathically to balance out your thyroid, does that
Mhm.
mean that what will happen is your body will start producing the iodine that it needs? Or do you not, or is that
I
something
think
that
I think addressing it homeopathically would help you uptake it because one issue could be maybe you are getting some in your diet,
Mhm.
but maybe it's just like any other nutrient. I
Mhm.
think about cell salts. The cell when
Yeah.
we take a cell salt, we're not taking the actual mineral, but
Mhm.
what we're giving our body a signal that says, "Hey, when you see this, you need to grab it and use it." So using iodine homeopathically would be telling our body the same thing if there was an imbalance, basically.
Right. So
Okay. Yeah.
before we even get to the homeopathic need, right? Because again, God made us perfectly, right? So we should be able to extrapolate, sufficient amounts of iodine from our food intake and then utilize it in our body to help
Mhm.
prevent disease, right? That's the goal, that's the idea, that's the way it was intended. But like Heather said, once we get to the point of, there being an imbalance, there's an issue why you're not uptaking that iodine, then it can lead to other conditions like, breast conditions and thyroid imbalance. But
Mhm.
before we even go there, we want to try to address it, with food. Right? And so some foods that you can eat that are very rich in iodine are not necessarily all foods. I mean, a lot of people don't really love seafood, but it's not all seafood, right? Although seafood is very high in iodine, seaweed, scallops, salmon, cod, all, tuna, those are all seafoods that are high in iodine. There's also eggs. They're also high in iodine. Baked potatoes with the skin on it is another one that's really high in iodine. Strawberries are a good source of iodine. Different types of beans, like navy beans, can also be. So if you're a vegan, right, or vegetarian, that's something you could be looking at. Dairy products, right? We're big proponents of less than a price and, raw milk. And if you can eat the raw dairy, that's even better. So there's lots of ways to get iodine within your diet. Also, one of the other ways to get iodine in your diet is trace minerals. Now, I'm not talking about supplements here, again, from food, right? Real salt, pink Himalayan salt, not unrefined, unrefined. You want unrefined sea salt, right? Why? Because it's coming from the sea and it's not only going to have iodine, it's going to have other trace minerals that your body needs. And that's another important thing in this is that iodine and selenium need to be balanced out in all of these hormone conditions. So
Mhm.
that's why getting your nutrients from food is super important because your body knows exactly what to do with it. So we're not talking supplementation, we're just talking eating a real food diet can help prevent a lot of conditions and it's super easy to do. The other reason why people might become iodine deficient and throw off the whole hormone imbalance, right? The whole hormone balance that can lead to some of these other conditions like breast cancer and fibrocystic breasts is also oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought there.
It left the station.
Oh, blocking. So there are things that block iodine absorption, right? And those things are, things that are like chloride is a big one, right? And so that is in our, it's in tap water, right? So if people are drinking tap water, they're drinking chlorine and they're blocking their iodine absorption. We bathe in that, right? So that's again blocking the absorption. Fluoride, yeah, Heather.
Question.
Yes.
So when you look at lists and stuff online, a lot of times you'll see things that'll say like, oh, use iodized salt, where they've
Mm-hmm.
stripped all of the minerals, but they've added back iodine.
Yep.
But if chloride doesn't allow you to absorb iodine and you have just straight NaCl and then
Yes.
they've added iodine, so it's basically pointless.
Exactly. It's almost
Okay.
like you've heard me talk about this before, Heather.
Just checking. Just checking. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So they make it sound like you're getting the iodine that you need, and technically you are, you're intaking it, but the chloride in the salt, because there's no other minerals, is not
is
allowing the body to
depleting. It's
uptake it.
block exactly. It's so it's essentially that's why we're iodine deficient, right? Because we use table salt for everything. And it's saying iodized, right? But it's not. So that's why we go back to that, unrefined sea salt. You're going to find not only the iodine in there, but again, other trace minerals that your body needs that all work together, like small amounts of selenium and other
Right.
nutrients that your body needs to support good health. So that's a really good point. The other thing is fluoride. That's another one that's a huge blocker, right? So again, fluoride, they again tap water, they put it in the water. It's in your toothpaste unless you buy fluoride-free toothpaste. So again, that blocks iodine there. And then another big one is breads, right? Baked goods, breads, it's bromide, right? Or and
Mhm.
that can also block iodine. So the reason why I'm talking so much about iodine is because again, it plays a role in that hormone production and balance. And again, how do we get sick? Right? It's the balance gets thrown off. And then once that balance gets thrown off, that's how we develop disease, right? And so again, as homeopaths, we're all about balance, but we want to make sure that as a preventative way that we're not throwing the body out of balance by all these things that are blocking us when really we could be keeping everything in balance by a, great nutritional diet, not the sad diet, the standard American diet. Um, so that's just, I know it's a lot of information, but I just wanted to touch on that because it's such a huge piece of this and it's one of the easiest things you guys can do, right? Is just check your eating, right? Healthy eating. The last thing I'm just going to briefly touch on because it's so important is doing regular self checks,
No
right? You
pun
can
intended.
literally just Google it and figure out how to do it and just do self checks. And then obviously, if there's a lump or, something that you're concerned about, you can, most certainly choose to, go to your practitioner and follow up with that. However, I am now going to hand it off to Heather, who's going to talk to you guys today a little bit about how we can approach this from a homeopathic perspective. Should you, find a lump or have another breast condition or any of those things, she's going to talk to you about, what do you do once there is disease, right? So a lot of what I talked about is more of the preventative and the self-care, but what happens when there actually is an imbalance in the body, Heather?
Right. And it's not just about, finding a lump. There's can be other issues that women can have with their breasts. So we're just going to touch on three remedies today, and some of them are even good for if there's an injury as well.
Mhm.
So Bryonia alba is the first remedy that I'm going to talk about today. And with Bryonia, regardless of where you're wanting to use it or whatever you're wanting to use it for in the body, one of the big keynotes with Bryonia is that it's worse from movement. So whether it's, a headache or some back pain or breast pain, if it's worse for movement and better from firm pressure or rest, that is kind of one of the keynotes that really stand out to me with Bryonia. And in breast health, it's useful when breasts can feel heavy, sore, or tight. And that can happen like right before, like when somebody's, having PMS, right before your period starts, during engorgement, like if someone is breastfeeding, and also after a minor impact or a strain, like even, like from exercise or, like a minor injury. The tissue can feel full or congested, and they may want to lie still and avoid being touched there. Obviously, if it's painful, no one wants to be touching. While we don't use um, in homeopathy, we don't use words like inflammation as much, but we can look at bryonia as kind of a homeopathic anti-inflammatory in this situation, where it's going to calm that irritation, help reduce that swelling, and support the body's natural healing process. The second one, and this is one that we've all been actually digging into this remedy a lot lately, just learning more about it, is Bellis perennis, and it is like the sister of arnica. So sometimes it's called the deeper acting arnica. In one of our other classes, we were talking about it, and it was called the gynecological arnica, because it's really good for those deeper muscles, deeper pain. So Bellis is really great where there's been deep tissue trauma, soreness after an injury, surgery, a biopsy maybe, or even a constriction. Like think about if you're in a fender bender and you have your seatbelt on, your seatbelt goes right across your breast area. So if there's that impact, you could have like that deep, it's not necessarily like a surface bruise. It's going to be more of like that deep tissue bruising. And Bellis is amazing for that. So arnica, we still are going to use, but when it's kind of deeper, or maybe you've taken arnica a few times and you still are kind of having that residual pain, that's where Bellis can really help in. And it's also really great for trauma after a medical procedure. It could be used if there's pain after a mammogram, and it's just going to kind of help the tissue recover. It improves circulation and just can kind of help again. It's like that deep pain. And then the last remedy we're going to touch on a little bit tonight is a really great breast remedy. It's called Phytolacca decandra. And this one is especially useful and should be in your back pocket for breastfeeding moms. It helps with breast inflammation, mastitis. It can help if you have like a blocked or a clogged duct. So there may be, like the breast may feel hard, hot, or lumpy, and you could have pain that radiates, like really from the whole breast, even through to like the armpit or chest. And it may, when you have mastitis or you have a clogged duct, nursing is super painful. So invaluable remedy for nursing moms to make sure you have that on hand, because, yes, there's other natural things, that we have heard about to do for that, but when you can kind of address it from the inside as well, that's amazing. And then outside of breastfeeding, Phytolacca is good for even just when there is maybe like some lymph congestion. And Nicole was talking about lymphatic movement and all of that, and drainage is really important. When we wear bras all the time, especially with an underwire, that really restricts our lymphatic flow and drainage. And so sometimes things can kind of feel congested. And it's a really great remedy to kind of help clear that and help move things along. And I know one of the other things, Nicole, that we were talking about earlier with the like kind of more from a holistic standpoint, but things that can be really helpful is like doing the lymphatic drainage, and castor oil packs are also really beneficial to breast health for helping move that around and keep things, our lymph is our garbage collection system basically of our body. And when that gets backed up, think about if the garbage workers go on strike, and that gives you a pretty clear picture of what can happen in our bodies when our lymph system isn't working, and we all sit a lot more than we should. So doing that a few minutes a day, it makes a big difference. So again, we're not going into super detail on a podcast, but there are other remedies, but these are the kind of three that stood out to really help support breast health in a lot of different areas. So
yeah, those are awesome remedies to have on hand for
sure.
anything having to do with breast health. So thank you
Absolutely.
for going through those so thoroughly with us, Heather. I'd like to just say that Phytolacca has come in clutch for me with a client recently that had a very fast growing benign tumor that they knew wasn't cancer, but it was just going fast. And she was going to the doctor and everything, like just like we were talking about earlier. Like, you don't want to just like assume that nothing's wrong. You want to make sure that things are okay when something like that happens. But she ended up coming to me after what the doctor had prescribed wasn't really working, and Phytolacca knocked it out of the park. So along with a couple of other remedies. But it is amazing the kind of work that these remedies can do in situations where there is a lot of pain, there is a lot of even fear around something that's happening. And it gives us a level of empowerment when we have some options. And there's way more options than those three. Way more. Just in that one case, we used probably 4 different remedies in the course of several weeks. But the point is that we don't have to feel powerless when it comes to our bodies. And that's exciting news for most people that we have alternatives that are not going to cause side effects, that are not going to be, a dangerous option that we don't feel good about. So that's why this topic is so important. So if you have listened to this today and you've been like, wow, this is really, really good information, and I'm really excited to hear that there are some options for, sort of taking back my health when it comes to breast health, please share this episode with a friend. We want the word to get out about homeopathy because it is, in my opinion, it's the most amazing modality there is. And of course, it's not, it's like anything else. Every modality is something that doesn't work 100% of the time, but it works very, very often, especially when you choose the correct medicine. And so learning these remedies, having them on hand so that you have them when you need them it's super important. But getting the education to know what it is that you should be using in these moments is probably the most important thing that you can do. So we have a solution for that as well.
We do.
We do. And it's called the Homeopathy Help Hotline membership. It's a paid membership. And it is on sale right now for $20.24 per month, because we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary of launching it, or we're actually getting ready to. And so
that was our podcast anniversary.
That was our podcast. We're getting ready to celebrate the membership. And so we have that going on, that sale right now. And we would encourage you guys to go and check that out. It's at simplehopeopathywellness.com/membership. And the really cool thing is we are going to take a deep dive into breast health and hormone issues and things like that in a workshop that we're going to be doing for our members coming up very soon. And if you're a member, then you get that for free, because we will, it'll be part of the recordings that are on the membership site. We actually have several live calls per month. And then we have a ton of recordings. We have studies that we link to and news articles. We just do all kinds of stuff. We have a lot of fun too. So if that is something that you guys are interested in, go and check that out at simplehopeopathywellness.com/membership. And we really hope to see you at our next workshop. And then you can actually ask more questions. We're, of course, inside of a membership, we're a little bit more free to be able to talk about things, because basically you have us to ask questions of. So it makes it a little bit easier for us to be candid and be able to explain things more in depth and walk alongside you as you learn this amazing modality, this amazing system of medicine called Practical Homeopathy. So with that, ladies, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, Sandra, I don't think and forgive me if I missed it, but I don't think you mentioned what our next chronic coaching corner topic is, but that is something that they also get within the membership is the live calls. You did mention the live interactions.
Oh, I
we get.
forgot. Yes. I
Yeah.
did forget that because we're going to actually do like a medium deep dive in the chronic coaching corner just in like a week. And then we're going to go even deeper in an upcoming workshop. So
On this topic,
on
guys.
this topic. So
Yeah.
If
you'll
you
have
like
different
hanging out with
levels.
us, if you like hanging out with us and you like listening to us and you want to come join us live and ask us questions about anything that we talked about in this podcast today, and also learn a little bit more on November 2nd, then you definitely want to get into that membership with us.
Especially right now when it's on sale.
Yeah.
Because who wouldn't want to get involved with something when it's on sale?
Absolutely.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I thank you for reminding me of that because I was thinking workshop and I forgot we're doing the chronic coaching corner on this as well.
Yeah,
We are.
absolutely.
And that's coming up way sooner than the workshop. So,
Yes.
all
But
right.
those-
Yes. Anything else?
That is it. We just
All right.
enjoy, being here with everybody and just want to thank all of our listeners. And like Sandra said, share this if you think it can help somebody because that's how we get our word out and that's how we help people. And that's what we all love to do, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Very true. All right. Well, we will see you next time on the Simple Hopeopathy Podcast. Adios.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Simple Hopeopathy Podcast. Tune in next time for more education, empowerment, and encouragement as we discuss how you can take back your family's health with practical homeopathy. Please share and subscribe and leave us a review. And if you'd like to know more about the membership we discussed in this episode, you can go to simplehopeopathywellness.com/membership for more information. See you next time.